Good evening, students. Welcome to this second day of session on Chapter 5, Core Banking System. So let us see who has got the punctuality e-chocolate for today. So we have Sudhanshu, he had logged in quite early, Pooja and Himanshu. So three people get the e-chocolate for logging in as early as possible. Okay, so good evening and let us start. Let us continue. So we are on Chapter 5, Core Banking System. I understand we had shared a case study that you must have gone through. So it's a reasonably big, a small case study with a lot of questions created out of it. So at the end of the session, we'll solve it. Same disclaimers. We may be talking about banking frauds. So we'll be talking about banking fraud. So any fraud that we discuss during the session is basically to highlight the system issue, control issue, and an auditor's perspective to that fraud. We are not here to talk about individuals involved. We are basically here to discuss the system issues. That is standard. Ask as many questions as you can. We already have one query by Mansha. I'll be answering that. Thank you. Okay. So this is the core objective of the chapter. And these are the topics that we are talking about. Overview of banking services, related IT service, risk controls, components architecture, core banking system risk, security and control, core business processes, relevant risk controls, reporting system, and regulatory framework. So we'll take one by one. This we have taken the introduction, overview of banking services, overview of CBS, core features of core banking system. Then core banking system IT environment, that is main topic. 2, component and architecture. So we talked about the core banking system IT environment, the technology components, the various servers that the bank is going to use. Then functional architecture of core banking system. Topic 4, I allowed you to go through the internet banking process, the practical aspect, the way you log into the system, the way you are able to do your banking, e-commerce transaction, part of this chapter as well as part of your chapter 4 that you all have studied. Then case study we did, trying to add practicality to it and implementation of core banking system. Then we talked about core banking system risk and controls, risk associated with CBS, then concept of security policy and internal control systems in bank. Today, internal control systems and talking about the relevant risk and controls. So main topic 5 is reporting framework, MIS, and topic 6 is regulatory framework for a bank. Now, internal controls in bank, there we left yesterday, the last session. Now, please understand that banks per se, because they deal in third party money, third person's money, so the basic business profile of the bank require banks to have very good internal control systems. So banks have internal control systems, but over the period of time since last 20 years, 20, 25 years, 30 years, we have been talking about that now the whole banking has been centralized, and this is exactly what you're looking at, core banking system. So the whole topic is targeted towards core banking system. So when I say internal control in bank, I'm basically talking about internal control in bank's core banking system. To that aspect, we are going to talk about. Again, understand this topic is very, very good, very important. You read it for your academics, you read it for your understanding of the accounting part that you are going to read in your accounts subject. You read it for your audit part that you are going to read it in audit subject. And this is one professional service that you will be able to provide once you become chartered accountants. And these are very, very specialized audits that are done. I'll try to share some of those experiences with you just for learning's sake so that the intensity is much higher. So this is again a very important topic that we need to talk about. So let us talk about What are the headings? Internal controls in bank, the IT controls, the application software issues that include configuration, transaction, master, transaction and reports, core banking system, relevant risk and control. So let us take it one by one. Now, the way whole banking works, so it is ensured that job done by one person is automatically supervised, checked by another staff member, irrespective of nature of maker checker. Now you realize that the first day's discussion when I asked you to document a process was exactly to help you understand this idea of maker and checker. We talked about, I shared that as a chartered accountant, as an auditor, your observation power has to be really good. So I told you that when you go to a bank, many of you shared the process of withdrawing money through a withdrawal slip or a check in bank rather than in an ATM. So I told you that next time you go to the bank and when you are withdrawing such cash in the bank branch itself, it may be through withdrawal slip or a check, then you see how that check is flowing, how the check flows. So to the cashier to whom you give your check, he gives you a token, and then next time you observe it, so you will see that the cashier gives the check to the officer that is exactly sitting near the cashier for authorization. So the concept of maker and checker. You go to the bank, just have an observation on this aspect. That is very, very important. The whole banking is created in a manner that one person's job is automatically checked by another person's job. How they create the checking mechanism? Through authorization process, through invalidation, validation. That is part of the way bank is going to work about. So this is very, very, very important. Then a system of job rotation among staff exists. Now I'm bringing a fraud. Please read. I've told you, all of you as chartered accountants, as members of the profession, please start reading a financial newspaper daily. Search this PNB fraud, PNB Nirav Modi fraud. Please search this online, read the modus operandi. There are number of factors, parameters to that fraud. One parameter that relates to is this aspect, system of job rotation. Whoever was the bank person, he or she remained at that location in the branch for a period of more than 6 years. The bank itself has an internal mechanism where any person at a specified location, he or she must not be there for more than 3 years. That individual was working at that location for more than 6 years. That must have raised a red flag. Please read that. I told you we'll be talking about fraud. So job rotation per se, whether it exists or not. Now, as we go ahead, I've shared a case with you. I want you to answer a question. Job rotation by its nature, intent, and content. Job rotation by its nature, intent, and content is preventive, detective, or corrective. Please answer the question. You will say job rotation, preventive, or detective, or corrective. Answer the question. Let us go ahead with this slide. So, see, I told you each line that is written is a case study to see. First, you observe. Second, I have shared with you on a banking fraud, the big banking fraud, 12,000 crores, 13,000 crores fraud that has occurred. And there are number of parameters to that banking fraud. One that is relevant for us is job rotation. Then, financial and administrative powers of each official is fixed and communicated to all persons concerned. Now, this is again very important that now because every transaction is done in the banking system, the user profile of the officer or the staff of the bank who is logging into the system is configured in system. What cash voucher, what vouchers he can create, what nature of transactions can be authorized is already created in system. So what as an internal control system, as an auditor, we need to be aware about the delegation and its configuration in the banking system. Say, for example, when you go for a bank audit, the branch managers have authorization to sanction loan up to a specified amount. Say, for example, the branch manager has power to sanction loan up to rupees 1 crore. And you go to the branch and you find that there is a loan that is more than 1 crore sanctioned in the branch. So you generate a query to the branch manager. He gives you a proper response that my power is only up to 1 crore. This sanction is 2 crores. This has been sanctioned by the higher official. say regional office or zonal office or next higher official who has that delegated power. So again, this is very, very important. All these powers are configured, tagged in system. Then last is a huge fraud that please keep a tag of it. Details of lost security forms. As a part of statutory audit, auditors physically verify this security papers. Now, security papers means what? So just for this remembrance sake, please understand these are stamps, judicial, non-judicial stamps available in the bank. This includes this FD receipts, fixed deposit receipts. Now, bankers issue fixed deposit through system, but there's a physical receipt uh, printed on a special paper like the check. So that receipt, then demand draft booklet. So these are critical security papers. This must always be available in controlled manner. Their registers have to be there, and the registers total quantity must always, no option, always must tally with physical quantity. Any issue of the security is again controlled. Then branch managers must send periodic confirmation to their controlling authority on compliance laid down by systems and procedures. All chartered accountants across India have just come back from doing that statutory bank branch audit. So in the reporting format of that, this point is there, whether the branch is sending regularly the periodic confirmation to controlling authorities. Now, what exactly this means? So the laid down list of what items branch managers has to periodically communicate. One that you have read, that you are going to read if you have not read right now, is this classification of non-performing assets, NPA. So branch managers have to, on a monthly basis, they have to report that status to their controlling authority. It's a system-driven report, but branch managers have to ensure that that report is communicated to their controlling authority. So there is a list of reports, there is a frequency of reports on whether that is being done. So it's a matrix, the list of report and the frequency, whether it is reported to the branch manager or not. Then all books are to be balanced periodically. Balancing is to be confirmed by an authorized official. Please understand, periodically, please make it daily. The books have to be tallied daily. The bank's system works on the concept of GL and SL, general ledger and subsidiary ledger. So when we shared day before yesterday on our first day that branch managers have to ensure that the trial balance have to be generated daily, and the trial balance has to be a tallied trial balance. It doesn't have an option of having difference in the trial balance. So this concept of periodic balancing is basically daily balancing. So your subsidiary ledger accounts and their control accounts and GL, they must tally. You must have read this GLSL two words, general ledger and subsidiary ledger. Bank is a best example where they're actually maintained right now also. Then fraud prone items like currency, valuables, draft forms, term deposit receipt, traveler's check, and other security form are in custody of at least two branch officials. We've talked about the physical verification have to be done on a regular basis, and whatever inventory is available, it must always tally with the system-based inventory as well as physical inventory. Very, very important. And effective internal audit should be carried out. Now, to the last line, many banks have a separate department of internal audit, which does an internal audit that is internal. That is, the branch officials, senior branch officials, designated branch officials of the bank do this audit. These are basically employees of the bank, but many banks have started outsourcing the internal audit of the bank to external people. That includes basically practicing chartered accountants. So this process has to be there. The point is that the internal audit has to be there. Whether you get that internal audit done through an internal person or through an external person, that is the way policy has to be framed by the banker. You are chartered accountants. There's a standard on auditing that deals with this relationship of internal auditors work by statutory auditors. So please name the standard which deals with this concept of internal auditors work being used by statutory auditors. First question. Second question. So you are answering one question. Job rotation is preventive, detective, corrective. Next question is the standard on auditing that deals with the relationship of internal auditor to external auditor. Third question. Listen to this carefully. I shared that bank need to have an internal audit function. This internal audit banks can get it done through their own staff, their own employees. So you call this internal audit. So the audit is being done by internal person. Then the same bank or any other bank can have its internal audit done by external person. So this will be called as external internal audit. So two words, internal audit, external internal audit. Of these two, suppose you are an expert, you are sitting outside the bank, whose process you are going to put more reliance on, internal audit or external internal audit? So third question you are answering is, who will be more reliable to an external person sitting outside a bank, whether an internal audit or external internal audit? So three questions to answer. Let us go to the next slide. Then IT controls in the bank. So this slide changes. You have answered a lot of questions. So let us go to your answers. Good. I feel so good. Yes. So Mansha says segregation of duties. Great. SOD. Very good. The recall of the word is good. It calls for an e-chocolate. So let us have it for Mansha. Then job rotation is preventive. I feel so proud that you are all answered it correctly. See, please understand. So your answer is correct. Job rotation is preventive plus, but understand that day one, when it was an idea that was created. When the idea was created, it was not preventive on day one. The day one the idea was created, it was basically detective. But now, because it is part of the policy framework, now it becomes more of a preventive nature. That is great. No, Saipa, it is not a burden, it is a responsibility. They have to see, it's a core banking system. The trial balance is generated through system. They don't have to do manually, but that closure has to be done. Yes, it has to be done, Saipa. Burden, non-burden, leave it. It has to be done. I told you that next time when you are going, you are in your office during that tax audit period, you generally get late in the office. So sometimes you may be going home by 8 p.m. in the evening. So when you find a bank branch whose lights are on, believe me, you will find the branch manager there, and he or she is basically seeing why there is a difference in the trial balance, why it is not tallying. It is to be done. There is no option. Please understand, no option, must do. Okay. Yes, Ayush, traveler's checks are outdated. Yes, the concept is not there. SS 610, someone says 620. Okay. I think I'll go by 610. Just give the full name of the standard. Next question was, we are going to believe external internal audit because that individual is outside the banking organization. So the level of independence is higher. So level of reliability will be higher. That is, in your standard on auditing, there's a concept of external confirmation and internal confirmation. To whom you put more reliance? External confirmation. So that is, there is one way of looking at it, that if the internal audit is done by an external consultant, the reliability will be much more. But then there could be another aspect to that, just for discussion's sake. If the internal audit is done by an internal person, that internal person is going to be much more aware about the processes, the controls in system. So probably his effectiveness of checking is going to be very good. So you can break down in terms of efficiency, effectiveness. So that is how you look at it. There are pros and cons, but generally putting the word, generally remembering it, we as auditors will put more belief on external internal auditor. Great. Yes, so Pooja, the job is done without bias. Fantastic. So this is what you're looking for, the whole concept. So the previous one was basically the concept of controls, the way it has to be created in bank's system. Next is IT controls in bank. So sample from module. Let us go to the module. I'll just give me a second. So we want to talk about the internal controls in bank. Yeah. So here are IT controls. Now again, please understand each of this word that we are going to talk about is going to have lot of discussion built into it. So I told you, see, this chapter itself creates lot of opportunities, professional opportunities to you as chartered accountants in practice once you becomes CA. So this chapter 3, chapter 5, chapter 2, ERP, these chapters create lot of opportunities to follow for all of you to put into place. Okay, so IT controls in bank. I'll just read and try to give you some examples on that. System maintains record of all logins and logouts. So login, logout, who logged in and who logged out. Then if the transaction is sought to be posted to a dormant account, yes. Now please understand, this is a sample list. If in the module there are, say for example, 10 sample, 10, believe me, you can add 990 more. That will 1000. Suppose the list was 1000, you could have added 4000 more. So it's only sample. It's never going to be complete. It's such a big thing that you are looking at. Okay. So just keep your tag. Whatever is here as sample, that is for you to remember. If you know something more than that, please add. I've already told you, just going to examination for one's sake. Please understand this. Many of us are like asking this question कि वैसे ही लिखना है क्या जैसा मॉड्यूल में लिखा है. Believe me, it is absolutely not necessary to write the way it is written in the module. The only requirement is whatever you write has to be logically correct, and it must be written in a manner it is understood by the examiner what you want to say. आप कैसे लिखते हैं, कितनी अच्छी हैंडराइटिंग में लिखते हैं, यह भी उस एग्जामिनर के लिए जरूरी, उसको पढ़ते आना चाहिए. तो कृपा करके परीक्षा में जवाब ऐसा लिखें कि परीक्षक उसको सही तरह से पढ़ पाए. परीक्षक बहुत मेहनत करते हैं, वो नंबर सिर्फ देना ही चाहते हैं. आपका जवाब सही होना चाहिए, पढ़ने योग्य होना चाहिए. सो वट एवर यू राइट इन एग्जामिनेशन, राइट इन legible handwriting and write logically correct. So that is how things have to be. Okay. So to this question, sample of list of IT control, suppose there are 10 here, you can add 10 more. Logically, they have to be read correctly. That is the point. Okay. So system maintains record of all login, logouts. Then next is very important. There's a separate report that is generated in all core banking systems. See, there's a concept of dormant or inoperative account. Generally, banks classify an account as dormant or inoperative if there is no transactions in the last 12 months. So they call it as dormant or inoperative accounts. Over a period of time, what bankers have found, what authorities have found, that this banking frauds, whoever has to do a banking fraud through help of a bank, those person use this existence of dormant account. So what the banks have, Reserve Bank of India and the bankers have created a benchmark, a procedure where any dormant account transaction will only be executed when the authorization level to the transaction is scaled by 1. So just as an example, suppose normal cashier could allow 10,000 rupees to be deposited in a dormant account. So you go to the bank and you are trying to deposit 10,000 rupees in the dormant account or inoperative account. Now today you are not able to do, the cashier will say this account is marked as dormant. So cashier may ask you to complete the latest KYC, know your customer, Aadhaar detail, PAN card, driving license, voter ID, or any such approved document by the bank. So you have to complete the KYC, and when you are completing the KYC, the first transaction after the account has become dormant and now you are going to make a transaction, so again making it normal account, that first transaction, the authorization level is with the higher official other than the general. So if 10,000 rupees deposit was allowed by a cashier, the KYC is done and this 10,000 rupees deposit will now be allowed by a person above cashier, probably loan officer or a credit officer, or any such approved document by the bank. So you have to complete the KYC, or branch manager, as the case may be. That is very, very important. Then I told you each line itself is a big discussion. But I'll only try to ensure that for each line I share some example with you so that you understand it in a better manner. A system check whether amount to be withdrawn is within the drawing power. Now please understand, drawing power is a calculation that is generated in system. So banks give various categories of loan. We'll be talking about the process flow of those type of loan today. So say for example cash credit loan. So there the calculation is done on drawing power based on the stock available with the borrower. So what system checks that if borrower has stock of 100, there is a concept of margin money. So for stock of 100, 25% is generally margin money. So for if borrower has a stock of 100, bank reduces the margin money, that is 25, and bank allows a drawing power of 75. Margin money is like security. The borrower also must fund the stock that he or she is or it is carrying. So that is drawing power. Now, whenever suppose the calculated drawing power is 75 and the account is overdrawn or it goes beyond 75, system tags it, system marks it. So it is exactly talking about whether the amount of withdrawn is within or without or in excess of DP, drawing power. So if it is in excess, there is a separate exception generated in system. The transaction is marked in system. Then next, so each so please try to remember the examples. So by remembering the examples, the job of your recall in exam will become very, very low. I don't want to remember like the way without any example built into it. The system flashes a message if the balance in lien account would fall below the lien amount after the processing of transaction. Now, please understand what exactly is the concept of lien. Say banks have fixed deposit, term deposits we've talked about. What banks do, they allow overdraft. So suppose I have a 1 lakh rupee a fixed deposit that is in bank. I earn interest, but for my business, I need a facility, a working capital facility. So I go to the bank and tell them that, say, you already have 1 lakh rupee fixed deposit. Please give me a OD, overdraft limit on the security of fixed deposit. So bankers have a concept of margin. So suppose my fixed deposit is 1 lakh rupee. They allow me 90,000 withdrawal. That is 10% margin. So because bankers already have a security, I can have a overdraft account of 90,000. Overdraft means I can withdraw that amount without separately depositing that because I already have 1 lakh rupees fixed deposit. Now, because this 1 lakh rupee fixed deposit against the security, bank has given me 90,000 rupees. I can do a fraud. You know what fraud I can do? I withdraw this 90,000 separately and encash the fixed deposit. So to ensure that I am not able to encash this fixed deposit, the banks mark lien on this fixed. Lien is ticking that on this FD an outstanding of 90,000 is there. So when that lien is marked, I cannot withdraw that. So I cannot do a fraud like that. So when you mark that lien, I cannot withdraw that. So that is how it is done. Now, the idea is what? That suppose I have already withdrawn 90,000. I now go for withdrawing, say 11,000 more. So 1 lakh is the FD, 90,000 is already withdrawn. I will go for withdrawing 11,000. So my outstanding will become 1 lakh 1,000. That will not be allowed. That is exactly what it is talking about beyond the lien mark value. So system again tags it in the exception report. Then this is basically for employee level restriction. See, today we have already talked about that net banking is 24/7/365. So it is not restrictive, but within bank, there are restrictions till what time staff could log in or till like when you go to branch. So I think banking hours today, based on the nature of the branch, generally your banking hours are 10:30 to 4. There could be exceptions because there is a concept of evening branch. In big metros, probably after COVID, now things are slightly easy. You have this concept of a banking branch that is open for 24 hours, non-stop banking. But beyond that, these are exceptions. Generally, the staff of the bank, they can log in to the bank system only on the stipulated period that is allowed. Like there's in the Negotiable Instrument Act, there are defined holidays. So you cannot log into those defined holidays which are defined in Negotiable Instrument Act. So that is how the whole system is configured. These controls are already put in place. Please understand, what you are reading is a sample list of control which exists in system. Okay, you're not creating, they're already there. Why I'm giving example? To help you understand, to visualize how it is going to work about. Then individual users can access only specified directories or files. Okay, that is user ID, access control, what I can do with my password, like that. And there's a word that has come, please understand, this is a very important word, remember it. Need to know, and you can add another word. Please add another word with which need to know and need to do basis. Access will be allowed based on these two principles. Need to know, जिसको जानने का अधिकार है. Need to do, जिसको उस काम करने की जरूरत है. उस आधार पे ही बैंक अपने सिस्टम में किसी भी व्यक्ति को एक्सेस की राइट देती है. ऐसा नीड टू नो एंड नीड टू डू बेसिस, ये कोर आइडियाज हैं, कोर कंसेप्ट हैं. नाउ this concept has another definition, so you can remember this word. This, it is a principle. This principle is called as principle of least privilege. Principle of least privilege. कम से कम एक्सेस राइट देना, जितना जरूरी है उतना ही देना. This is called as concept of least privilege. Just remember these words: need to know, need to do basis. These are already built in banks system. Then exception report, yes. So this is, please understand, once you become chartered accountants or during your articleship, those who are already doing articleship, those who are doing articleship and not gone to bank audit, those who are going to start articleship and then you will go to bank audit. Whenever you go to bank audit, always ask for this exception report. Ask the banker to provide exception. This is all you are reading, this lean mark, so you cannot go beyond the specified limit. The drawing power has to be addressed. The banker sanction this delegation of authority to the branch manager. He or she can only pass loan up to 1 crore. All these examples I am giving. If these rules are not followed, then every time this transaction is recorded in what you call as exception report. Please understand, these exception reports are generated on a daily basis. Every bank branch, now because all banks are working on core banking system, so whenever their day end is there, day end means the system is closed, the balancing is generated. So now banks have concept of day end. Whenever day end is done for the branch system, an automatic report is generated of exceptions in the system of the day. So those exceptions need to be reviewed, acted upon. Very, very, very important. A user timeout is prescribed. User timeout, I've already shared an example that if you have logged it to system and you don't do transaction for a specified period of time, system logs you out. That you did share. You could create a security in terms of screen saver password, but in bank system it's a mandatory logout because the risk is huge. So if you don't do a transaction beyond a specified time limit, you are logged out. Like irctc.co.in, that internet railway reservation internet site. What is the time frame that you log in and you don't do any transaction? Then you get this message on screen: session logged out or session timeout. You have to re-log in. Can you answer this question? What is the time that irctc.co.in logs you out if you don't do a transaction on that railways website after logging it to the website? So the time frame. Once you answer the correct time frame, I'll let you know how it helps. Then once the end of the day process is over, ledger cannot be opened. So that is done. Once you have closed a transaction, balanced the ledger, then you cannot do any transaction in that ledger again. So this is a very intensive discussion. How many points we had? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Only 9 points are there, and believe me, there are 991 more. It's only a list. So if you come across by your experience, you find there's something there, please write that. Just give an example for understanding of the marking it there. Very good. No, lean is see, because mortgage and lean are technical words, so they are not synonyms. So there's a technicality to mortgage which is not there to lean. No, Akash, lean, please. Lean is not an amount. Okay, lean is a transaction. Okay. So my FD is 1 lakh. I have taken OD of 90,000 against the security of the FD. So what banks do, they mark lien on it. Please understand, lien is a transaction. Lien is, you can say, a legal parlance. Okay, there is no concept of lien amount. Take it as like mortgage, hypothecation. So lien is one of those ways of marking that this security or this asset of the borrower has a outstanding balance. Yeah, Manisha, need-based can be called as role-based. Very good. Prabhas says never tried 30 minutes. Okay, more than 10 minutes. No, you have not tried. 2 minutes. Okay, now try. So this is on isctc.co.in. In banking system, I personally don't know, but my feeling is that is going to be not more than 1 or 2 minutes. It will log out, mandatory log out. Good question, Pooja. A very good question. So this question of Pooja gets a e-chocolate. I'll read that question. We'll talk about it. Yes, Mansha, that login logout is part of the audit trail. Very good. Very good. Yeah, Prema Joy Clara, 1 minute. Yeah, so my understanding is 1 or 2 minutes. I'll accept that. Thank you. Now coming to Pooja's question. Sir, are there no physical document? Yes, no physical document. Your auditors, I give you name of a standard. Please put your heart and mind to it. SA 230. What is that? Documentation. Auditors have to give opinion based on sufficient, appropriate audit evidence. So now you see how your profession has to evolve. Okay. That is how it looks like. Next, again, a very, very, very important topic. Okay. We were talking huge on this topic, huh? And again, it's a phenomenal topic to talk about. Learn and make it part of your practice once you become chartered accountants. So I'm catching you young. Okay, so I've been telling you that this all you can do once you become chartered accountant. So that is going to keep your heart and mind into these subjects. Okay. So application software, we have talked about this. There are two basic categories of software. So let us understand. Okay, it could be a discussion on day one. Let us do it. See, when you talk of system, so you're looking at two basic type of software, system software and application software. What is a system software? System software is one that creates a man-machine interface. System software is the one which creates the man-machine interface that allows you to use a machine. Sorry. That software you call as a system software. Application softwares are those softwares which are going to be used by the user for their purpose. So say, for example, Tally, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, this ERP, all these are basically application software. Core banking system, these are basically application software. What is a system software? So the best example of system software is operating system. So operating system falls in the category of a system software. We are basically talking of core banking system, that is a application software. With this basic discussion, let us go to this next very important topic, that is configuration, master, transactions, definition in an application software, that is core banking system. Let us do with, we'll try to do again with examples. Let us go ahead. So application software, okay, so any software where you have to use, then you need to define something. So let us see what definitions have to be given. Configuration, master, transaction, and reports. Let us go ahead. Now, I'll be asking one of the questions you asked. So based on that, I'll build this configuration issue. You asked me question, cooperative bank. Okay. Now, before we get into this topic, let us talk about the types of bank. Okay. So we call banks which are public sector bank. Then we call banks which are private sector banks. You gave me a word, cooperative bank. Then another word I am giving you, regional rural bank. Okay. Kshetriya Gramin Bank. So this is another word. Then Reserve Bank of India has given very special license to something that is being referred to as small bank. Then Reserve Bank of India has again given some very special license to something called as payment bank. Now, this is 5, 6 basic categories, simple categories. There are other ones, leave that. What we are basically looking at. So these are types of bank. What we shall be doing for understanding this configuration master transaction, we'll compare two banks. Okay. So let us talk about a public sector bank and a small bank. Why Reserve Bank of India has given us separate license for small bank? Because Government of India, we 135 crore Indians, Government of India want to ensure deep penetration of banking. What they call is financial inclusion. भारत सरकार यह चाहती है हर भारतीय के पास बैंक की सुविधा हो. They want everyone to have bank. Now, what is the trouble? Trouble is that large public sector bank, they have big branch network. Still, there is not 100% financial inclusion. Not every Indian has access to bank within, say, a parameter of, say, radius of 10 kilometers. So then how to do it? So what do you start giving license to? More bank. Now, when you give license to a bank, so there is something called as a requirement of capital, requirement of experience. So those requirements, over a period of time, government and Reserve Bank realize that we must ease those requirements. उन जरूरतों को क्या करना चाहिए? कम करना चाहिए. So they created this concept of small banks. So small banks are those banks which can be started with initial small capital, less experience. And because these are small banks, these are going to have access, these are going to open branches in remote locations, villages. So financial inclusion is going to increase. This is the basic idea. Now with this, I told you that I'll share something that probably is not part of the module, but you must learn that. Okay, it's a phenomenal thing in banking that we must know. There is a concept of BC. Please carry this word, BC, concept of banking correspondent. BC is banking correspondent. Now, how banking is undergoing a third revolution. Okay, so you had the banking after independence, then 25 years prior to today, when this core banking system was started, that was a second revolution. Then a third revolution that is already being used, that is digital revolution. COVID has given a lot of impetus to this. Another parameter of third revolution is BC, banking correspondent. Let us have 2 minutes on this. It's a phenomenal discussion to have. Kindly do carry this, BC. Now see, Government of India has been using this Jan Dhan, Prime Minister's Jan Dhan bank account to transfer subsidies. In fact, our Prime Minister is on a visit. So I was just reading one of the statements he made, that in last 7 years or 8 years, Government of India has transferred, please listen to the figure carefully, 22 lakh crores, 22 lakh crores of subsidy through direct benefit transfer, DBT. Now, these subsidies are being transferred where? To the account of the beneficiary. That beneficiary has that bank account. So through Aadhaar and these Jan Dhan accounts have been created. Now when these Jan Dhan accounts have been created, the person, suppose he or she is a senior citizen living in a remote location. So the amount of subsidy is credited to that individual's account. Now the trouble is that the individual has to withdraw money. So that individual, he or she has to travel to bank or the nearest ATM. The trouble is that the nearest bank or nearest ATM is so far that the conveyance cost, time taken to reach that location, acts as a deterrent. वो बैंक और जो नियरेस्ट एटीएम है वो उस व्यक्ति के गांव से इतना दूर है कि उसकी कन्वेंस कॉस्ट में वो सेट नहीं हो पाता है, वो नहीं जा सकता है. So government realized that. So this BC, banking correspondent, had been there since I think last 15, 20 years, but now a lot of emphasis has been put to this BC. So what is a banking correspondent? He is a mobile bank. What that person is, he or she is a mobile bank. He or she is going to carry that point of sale terminal. POS, we talked about POS, the terminal on which you can swipe your card. So this banking correspondent carried this point of sale terminal, which is biometric enabled. Okay. Now, so this individual, he goes to the remote location in the bank. There is a point of sale terminal. The person who got that subsidy credited in his or her account, fingerprint verification or card verification, as the case may be, is done on the POS. It is linked to the bank central system. The person asks for, say, 500 rupees. The banking correspondent today has authority, what I know best, to deal with 10,000 rupees debit credit in a day. 500 rupees he gives to the individual. The charge slip is printed. That is evidence of the transaction. The charge slip is also given to the individual. The transaction is over. Banking correspondent. To ensure that banking correspondents are available, Government of India recently, I don't know the exact date, but within, say, last 2 years, 3 years, they designated all postmen and postwomen as banking correspondent. Today, India has something around 150,000 postmen and postwomen as BCs, banking correspondent. So this is going to ensure financial inclusion to the remotest location. A very separate discussion, but it's a learning discussion. Why this? Now come to this topic, configuration. So I have made the idea clear to you of the public sector bank and small bank. Now, when you talk of configuration, suppose both have the same core banking system. Public sector bank is also using Finacle and say small bank is also using Finacle. Configuration setting for both will be very different. Let us read. Defining access rules for various devices and terminals. A public sector bank may allow its customer to access through laptop, desktop. A small bank probably may not allow. Creation of user type. Yes, a public sector bank is going to have large infrastructure companies as its borrowers, because public sector bank can advance up to 5,000 crores, 10,000 crores, but a small bank has restriction. Small banks can only give advance up to 1 crore. So it is not going to have infrastructure financing, project financing as a part of its portfolio. So large borrowers will not be there. So that type of user type, customer type will not be created. The third one. Then public sector bank is going to have a special year-end process. Small bank will have a different year-end process. The user access and privileges of public sector bank will be different. Small bank will be different. That is the core when you talk of configuration. So configuration is defining what the system is going to do at the top. Please understand. What is configuration? Defining what the system is going to do at the top. That is configuration from the top. So when I buy, suppose I am a bank, I can be a public sector bank or a small bank. When I buy a core banking system like Finacle, Banks 2000 or iFlex or any other system, there are a number of names in your module. Whatever core banking system I buy, before I start using, which is the first setting I have to do? Configuration. So that system, that definition will define, it will create a boundary line that this is say Finacle or Banks 2000 or iFlex, and this is the boundary within which my organization is going to work. That is configuration. Then masters. So once you define what nature of bank you are, then you define the master. Now, suppose I am a small bank, so my customers will be specified. So I'll define the type of customer. Say, for example, a small bank cannot give advance to infrastructure, so you'll not have a customer type like that. I can give advance to say Kisan credit card, so I'll have a customer type like Kisan credit card. I, as a small bank, can give uh, advance to small this people, small say tea stall owners or small grocery shop sellers. I will have a customer type like that. Then that is there. Then I create employee master, employee name, ID, designation level, joining details, other income tax matter, tax rates, okay, slabs, frequency of TDS, and then much more. Ours is a king subject, so you read TDS there and you have to put it here in system. Okay, so all these definitions have to be put in system. Where you define masters. Again, there could be more detail, but core masters have been brought to you. Next, nature of transaction. See, so from configuration you are going down like that. So nature of transaction, deposit, advance. Say, just for example, the Reserve Bank of India has not allowed small banks to do ECS debit or credit. There's a restriction. That is, so nature of transaction you are going to do that. And again, it's a illustrative list. You can generate huge reports. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are there. You can add 60 more. Please believe me. Okay. So these are only illustrations. So again, why I'm sharing like this? So that when you go for bank audit before examination, suppose you get a privilege to do a bank audit, then you find time to do the bank audit, learn, you find another report there, you put that report here. Okay. I'll add 2 reports. I'll add 2 reports. Users at different level use information in different form. So summary of transactions, daily GL, activity logging, reviewing who logged in, MIS report for each product service, covering performance compliance, report of exceptions. Please write 2 more. Please write. CTR, STR. These are very, very important. CTR is cash transaction report. STR is suspicious transaction report. CTR, STR. So these are reports generated by cash transactions as defined by RBI, as defined by Income Tax Department, say 1 lakh rupees daily or 2 lakh rupees daily or 10 lakh rupees over a month. So if account has transactions in cash beyond these limits, it is tagged in that CTR, cash transaction report. It is generated. Then STR, suspicious transaction report. Few account by their nature, operations may be classified as suspicious. So if any transaction is done in those accounts, then STR is generated, suspicious transaction report. So beyond 6, we have added 2, and then you can add 60 more. That is how you look at the whole system, the way it is operating. Risk with respect to control. So because we want to go to the module, let us read few of your queries. Yeah. So Cyprus is commercial bank. Okay. Great, Mansha. Very good. And the configuration, master and transaction, she gave example of institute. So I'll take that. Foundation, inter, final. Very good. Then Himanshu, configuration, general setting for modules, master specific. Very good. Hiral. What? No, no, Hiral. No. See what system can do. Let us not do it. It is basically, rather, it is only what it can do. It doesn't have a don't parameter. Okay. It's like that door is not there. Okay. So for a small bank, infrastructure financing is not a door. So you don't create it. So you don't say you cannot do it. Okay. That is the point. Electronic clearing system, Ayush. Day 1. Yeah. Oh, that is through PAN number, Pooja. Your PAN number. So every transaction that is done, that is linked to PAN number. In fact, this bank, I think someone did say with an example or the part of the query answer that if you deposit more than 50,000, you have to give in cash, you have to give your PAN number. So that PAN number is automatically linked to the income tax website. So bank system is linked to the income tax website. Phenomenal data analysis. I've told you, Excel command daily. The keyword is data analysis, business intelligence. And if you are more interested, add a word to that, AI, artificial intelligence. It's changing the way we work. Okay. Let us go to the module. So Cypher says how to prepare the way we are discussing. Add examples to the lines. Now here it is, some risk and related application control. So we'll do it as it is here. Okay. So what is the risk? Interest may be incorrectly calculated. So, okay. What controls you need to ensure? That is computed correctly. Digits are rounded off appropriately. Interest is accurately calculated. Now, see, please understand. Suppose you take interest only as an example. So, correct calculation of interest will have two parameters. You understand, please. First, the rate of interest has to be correct. And second, the product calculation has to be correct. Believe me, wherever you go, before believing the system, always do a sample check. Do it. It may appear not the best way. You may, please do it. I am sharing from experience. Two things, the rate of interest has to be correct and the product calculation has to be correct. Product calculation, you know, rate of interest as per the banking policy, banking norms. Always check that. So before believing in system, check it. What it says, that system is going to have control? Yes. So as an auditor, we'll check. The point is, if this is a risk, does it have an IT control? The answer is yes. The example I have given is taken care in the second case. Inappropriate assignment of rate code. Yes. So if the rate code, the rate table is incorrectly assigned, the calculations will be incorrect. Then how you have to do? Interest rate code is defaulted at account level and can be modified at rate code carrying a higher or a lower rate based on, please understand, this is important. Based on this adequate approvals. So just trying to give you an example. The OD example I have taken. जो OD का example हमने लिया, 1 lakh rupees FD, 90,000 rupees OD. So suppose the rate of interest on my FD is 6%. So my overdraft is generally 6 plus 2, 8%. But suppose the banker gives me better rate, say it says, okay, we will only charge 7%. So because they are charging lower rate than specified, so this 7% has to be approved. It is written lower rate. So whether you are charging lower or higher, it has to be approved. So it is very, very important. Approval as a process. System validation is not there. Business rule may be hit. So there has to be proper system validation rules put in place in the banking system. So big chart, okay, huge. Okay, then inappropriate. So I request you to read. There was one query that was there, so I'll take that one. NRE, NRO, I'll talk about that. Then multiple lien in excess of deposit value may result, yes. Lien means we have talked about, so you have to see, again, this is a huge list. Read that, find time to learn, search on Google. So multiple lien means more than one FDs, you have to mark those, or on a single FD, there may be more than one loan. So how you keep a track of that? This is very important. Non-resident external and non-resident ordinary accounts, because this deal with foreign, this deal with NRA, non-resident Indians and their money, and the provisions of FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act, applied to the provisions of RBI regarding foreign currency or foreign currency remitted converted to Indian currency. All those restrictions are there. So a lot of regulations are there on these accounts. Please find time to read them. And then these regulations have to be configured in system. That is very important. Then failure to levy appropriate charges resulting in revenue loss. Yes. Who recovers? Who is the auditor who is going to work in a. So I'll answer this question. Let it be a question. This system needs to ensure that it is properly configured. Do we take help of an external consultant to help us out on this aspect? Which aspect? Levy of appropriate charges. Okay. Do we take help of a external consultant to help us on this aspect? Levy of appropriate charges. So what you are going to name that consultant? Can we have a specific name of that person? Day one lecture, we talked about that. Okay. Then inappropriate security, yes. This whole non-performing asset is already automated process in bank. So this is a risk, this is a control. Automating the classification concept. Incorrect classification and provisioning of NPA resulting in financial misstatement. Configuration customization exists in application to perform non-performing asset classification as per relevant Reserve Bank of India guidelines. Then non-levying appropriate charges, duplicate. So you need to have proper controls in system, and duplicate asset record may be created. This must never happen. There has to be unique ID proposition to that. Okay. So that is the part that we wanted to take from the module. So we'll go to the next part. Let us have your questions. Chetna, good. So the report that you are reading is basically that is generated from system. Long form audit report is a report that is to be submitted by statutory auditor of the bank to Reserve Bank. Please understand. Long form audit report is not that is generated from system. Long form audit report is a format that has been defined by Reserve Bank of India. That report has to be submitted by the bank's what we call as central statutory auditor, or you can call as the statutory auditor of the bank. That auditor has to compile the report and submit it to the Reserve Bank. Now basically what happens, suppose head office is in one of the metros in India of a bank. The head office auditor is sitting in the metro, but the banking business is not done at the head office, it is done at the branches. So what the head office auditor does, he delegates, he asks the branch auditor that every branch auditor at bank branch level has to create a long form audit report at a branch level. So all these branch long form audit report are compiled at the head office level by the head office auditor. He or she completes their process and then finalize and submit it to the Reserve Bank of India. So if you have occasion, chance of going for a bank branch audit, then if you read the way bank branch auditor reports, all reports by bank branch auditor are not addressed to the bank board, they are addressed to the statutory central auditor of the bank. So branch auditors give report to the head office auditor. The head office auditor compiles and gives it to the Reserve Bank or authorities, as the case may be. Long form audit report is a specified type of report that has to be submitted to the Reserve Bank. Now, because I have talked of branch auditor and head office auditor, which auditing standard I am referring to? Please give the name of the standard, number of the standard. Okay. Okay. So, external confirmation sending letter for charges. Good. Good, Mansha. Suspicious transaction report by name, intent, content. The report is exception. It doesn't, it may be generated separately with the same heading, part of exception, but yes, by name, it indicates it's an exception. Great. Okay. Let us go ahead. Now, most of this discussion, this part of the discussion that is on the core business process, we are going to do from the module itself. Okay. So it basically the flow chart, the transaction itself. So we'll do it from module. Page 5. Okay. So let us go to the module. Now, so first is business process flow of current and saving account. Okay. So what we'll do, I'll allow you to, so current account, saving account. Now what we're basically looking at, there are two or three aspects to this discussion. Our topic heading is what? The core banking system, core business processes, relevant, risk and control. So there are five headers that we are going to talk about. We shall first start with CASA, current account, saving account. Now there is a process flow given. So I'll just bring the flow chart for reference purpose only. Let us first look to the flow chart, then we'll read few lines from this. One we'll discuss in slight detail. Lot of flow charting, lot of detailing is given in the module on this. Okay. Let us first review. Yeah. So this is that flow chart that is given. I told you, so this flow chart is again learning. If you read the flow chart thoroughly, you'll realize that lot of control parameters are inbuilt in banking system. So it tells, the arrows tell you the transaction flow, how it is going to flow, what action is going to be taken, who is going to take action. So, and then it has been categorized at the action by customer, action by branch, action by credit and risk management authority approval, then CASA account confirmation, that is current account, saving account. So this is the process flow. So what I basically want, please read this process flow, go through all the flow charts in the module. I told you that when we started, that suppose you are opening a new bank account. Recall when you went to open a bank account. So let us do this one because we have asked that question. Let us read this one. Opening a new bank account. Let us do it practically because you already answered the question. Customer applies for, say, saving account through internet banking branch. So you are making an application. With the application, you give eKYC document. Now it's all electronic, physical. Even you need not go to branch physically to open an account. But say, for example, you have gone physically, you give your Aadhaar number, PAN number, details required by the branch. Then what the branch manager does, RM is relationship manager, basis the customer request, proceeds the customer request account to KYC, know your customer. So know your customer documents of the applicant are signed by customer and shared with the bank. We sign the Aadhaar photocopy, and what the branch manager does or the officer in the bank, he or she puts a seal verified from original and signs. तो आप अपने आधार कार्ड को ले जाते हैं, उसकी फोटोकॉपी देते हैं, उस पर साइन करते हैं, ब्रांच वाला फोटोकॉपी को ओरिजिनल आधार कार्ड से कंपेयर करता है, उस पर लिखता है इस फोटोकॉपी को मैंने मूल दस्तावेज से जांच कर लिया है, and then he or she signs that. First part is done. Then risk team assesses the background. So whether that current account, saving account can be opened for you. There is a chance, say for example, there are identified willful defaulters in a bank. So willful defaulter means those persons who have taken loan and not paying back. Or there could be identified criminals or terrorists. So, and they have given details and they want to open bank account because they want some money for some bad purpose. So if that risk assessment team says that this customer, the person who has come, is say a willful defaulter or a defined terrorist or a designated absconder, then the application can be rejected. So that is an exception. For those which have accepted, on confirmation of from the risk team, the current account, saving account is opened in customer account and you get the message. आपको message आ जाता है. Customer makes use of the facilities that is available to him or her. So we have talked about the process. So in fact, if you do through the flow chart, your understanding will improve, your reasoning out will be improved, and the whole scenario, the way bank operates, that you are going to learn very well. Okay. So then I'll just run because one we want to do thoroughly. So that is going to add to the understanding. Okay. So you apply to the bank, you go to the bank, or now because see banking for public and private sector bank, due to competition, you can open account online. so that you do it. So your customer relationship manager of the bank may come to your office, home to open your bank account. So that is also possible. You give that KYC document, KYC. So whatever we discuss in the flow chart is written. So let us save time on this. Your account is open. Now what is important? This is important. Risk and control. So this again we are going to talk in detail. So your account is open. Now you're looking from the banking perspective. What are the risk parameters to a current account, saving account process? So let us take one by one. This chart table will go in much detail. Credit line setup is unauthorized and not in line. Credit line setup means, say the power given to you in the customer account you have opened with the bank is not as per your like CIBIL score. So that is not good. So the credit committee checks that the financial ratios, net worth, the risk factors, and the corresponding mitigating factors are in line with the credit line given. So this is again a process that the bankers do internally. So what you are basically looking at, the details submitted by the customer, its evaluation of those details, the risk to that evolution, and how you are going to ensure that it is properly configured in system. Then, so first was credit line setup is unauthorized, not in line with bank's policy. Second, credit line setup in CBS is unauthorized and not in. So the credit line you have said is unauthorized means first is, see please, there is a subtle difference between first and second. First is their credit line's assessment is incorrect. Here credit line assessment is correct, but someone has unauthorizedly modified it. Okay, that is the. So then you need to have access rights to ensure authorization of credit limit is properly done. Then customer master defined in CABC's core banking system is not in accordance with the credit limits or disbursement certificates. So whatever customer masters have been created, they have to be done by authorized personnel as per the requirement. Then inaccurate interest being charged, being calculated in core banking system. Now, I've already told you, see, even if it's a system-based calculation, please ask questions. Don't believe it like that. You must ask questions. ये हो रहा है तो सही है क्या? Means generally the auditee always say it's a system-driven calculation. It is always going to be correct. Let us multiply that response by a word in audit that you have learned. So please answer that word. That when the branch manager says, sir, it's a system-based calculation, why you want to check? You multiply this statement of the branch manager by a word in audit, and then you check. I want you to tell me that word in audit. Based on that, you are going to check. Okay. Then proper segregation of duty has to be there. We've discussed a lot. And inaccurate accounting entries generated in CBS. That's a disaster. It must never happen. So that is current account, saving account. We'll do discussion for the balance because we want to go to the next topic. There are queries. Let us take that. Yes. So SA 600, SA 299, not 600 is the correct answer. Yeah, Ayush, he or she can have current account and saving account. So there are two categories: current account and saving account. Okay. For business, like suppose we are a CA firm, so we will not have because it's a commercial account. So we are going to have a current account with the bank, because current account, whatever balance we have, the bank doesn't pay us interest. Then you have saving account. On that we can get interest. So current account, saving. Yeah, so I answered your question, Ayush. Yeah, Manisha. So it's a learning process. Okay. It's an update. Okay. So what, answering Ayush's question. Now see, banks have become very market oriented. So they have their customers who they've got a market team that visits you. They are called as customer relationship managers. Yeah, pre-disbursement is more in relation to loan account. So I'll talk more on that. Not exactly for current account, saving account, Ayush, but just remember it. Oh, that is a different topic, Pooja. How CIBIL is calculated, not part of our syllabus. Okay, so now it's time to take a break. It's 1916. So 10 minutes break. 1926, we will rejoin. So it's a break time. Let us have Okay, so back from this very important break, let us start where we left. Now, I missed a question during this discussion. So let me get back to that question. I had asked you which auditor is going to help bank identify the charges related issue. So someone did say, let me just read. Concurrent auditor. So the right answer to, yeah, concurrent auditor within their scope is they are there to check revenue leakages, but banks, have a system of a very special auditor to identify this revenue leakages in bank. These auditors are called as revenue auditors. So the right answer to the question is revenue auditor. I missed that. Yes, post office saving bank is saving bank. Yes. Yeah, now see, let us start from where we left. Okay, so here is a query, credit line setup. Good. So here credit line setup, understand in, to make it easier, understand it in terms of facilities that can be granted. Okay, so what withdrawal, what amount of check, what minimum balance, that could be credit line setup. Then, yeah, inaccurate accounting, Akshay, I'll come to that. We'll discuss that again. Last point where we left. Yes, you can have. We have like that. Our realizations are in our firm account, that is current account. So if we realize beyond a point, then we transfer it to saving bank. So that you can do. Yeah. No. Nothing wrong like that. It's a normal practice people have. Okay. Then it depends based on your business organization. If you're a corporate entity, then that is not possible because then the fund belongs to the company. So there has to be an authorization process. So that issues are there. But for proprietors like that, people do it. Okay. So I've answered all the questions. Now the last one that we need to talk about, inaccurate accounting entries in CBS. Now, please understand, this risk is huge. So please understand, it's a huge risk. Okay? Because if core banking system is generating accounting incorrectly, it is going to have a huge implication. I'm just trying to share an example to highlight that. See, please understand that it's system, it's predefined. So sometimes this may come to us that core banking system is not going to do anything incorrect. So I'm sharing this with something that we learned during this bank audit process to highlight that if your core banking system is not configured properly, still it can do mistakes. Okay. So as a auditor, as a control professional, we must be able to highlight that. I'm just sharing this example. Few parts you'll be studying like non-performing advances, non-performing assets. So there is a terminology called as recoveries. Now, why an account becomes non-performing? Because the interest due, charges due, or principal due is not paid over a defined period of time. Reserve Bank of India has something called as IRAC norm, income recognition asset classification norm. So right now we are only talking about the classification part, performing asset and non-performing asset. So which assets are non-performing? This discussion is part of syllabus in other subjects. So there is nothing out of syllabus. Which assets are non-performing, which are not paying the on those advances where the charges or the interest or the principal is overdue over a given period of time as per the Reserve Bank of India IRAC norms, income recognition asset classification norms. Now, what happens? So once that defined period is over, you classify the account as non-performing. Why an account has become non-performing? Because the interest, principal, charges is not recovered. Now there is a concept of recovery. Recovery means an asset, an account has become non-performing, but the borrower over a period of time starts repaying. So non-performing advance has become because borrower has not paid charges to the bank or interest to the bank or principal to the bank. or a combination of any of these three. Now borrower has started repaying. The question that is asked is that when borrower makes a repayment in a non-performing account, so that repayment by the borrower, whether it will be first credited to interest not received, or whether it will be credited to charges not received, or whether it will be credited to principal not received. So Reserve Bank of India says that whatever recoveries you do in a non-performing account, bank has to devise a policy, and based on the policy, the recoveries have to be done. Okay, good. So this statutory bank branch audit we went. So I'm not naming the bank because we are online. So we asked for the policy. There was an NP account at the branch where the recoveries were made. So we asked for the policy. We were provided the policy. I'm reading the policy. Policy of the bank said that if the recovery is there in non-performing account, first charges will be recovered, then all the unrealized interest will be recovered, and then the principal will be recovered. 3 steps: charges, interest, and principal. We checked the recoveries and see what we found. We found that the recovery was in core banking system was not as per bank policy. So your core banking system has to work as per the policy decided. Who has decided the recovery policy? The board of directors, the top management. It has to be properly configured. We found it was not properly configured. So this can happen. So now please understand that if this is happening in one account that we checked at the bank level, at the branch level, that means it's an all bank phenomena. It's a huge mistake. It's a good example of inaccurate accounting entries. So how accounting entries have to be done and how they have been done. कैसे उनको होना था और कैसे किया गया है, इसमें जो अंतर होगा वो inaccurate accounting entry का होगा. यह विश्वास रखें कि कोर बैंकिंग सिस्टम ईश्वर नहीं है, वो एक मनुष्य के द्वारा बनाया हुआ सिस्टम है. जैसे गलती करना, टूअर इज ह्यूमन, गलती करना मनुष्य का स्वाभाविक प्रक्रिया है, वैसे कोर बैंकिंग सिस्टम में भी गलती हो सकती है. वह अगर गलती हुई उसका इंपैक्ट ज्यादा होगा. सो कोर बैंकिंग सिस्टम इज नॉट लाइक गॉड, इट इज बेसिकली क्रिएटेड बाय ह्यूमंस. So it is also the possibility of error in core banking system exists. That is what you are looking at. Okay. So I think that answers the query. It was a good discussion to have. Great. Let us go to the next point. Okay. There's a queries have refreshed. So let me just check the queries. Okay. Thank you. Now, the next is business process flow of credit cards. Today's case study based MCQs, there are, I think, 10 or oblique 11 questions. So, and we'll find time. So, I think we'll have at least 15-20 minutes at the last for MCQ case studies so that we do it thoroughly. Okay. Now, business process flow of credit cards. So, we all know credit cards. Let us read the, so what we'll do, we'll not read the process flow from the written text. We'll read all process flow from the diagrams. So, it will create a good understanding of flowcharts and how you can create flowcharts. Just give me a second. I'm just bringing the slide. Yeah, it is here. Okay, so some queries are there. Let me answer them. Yes, so bad banks, government has created this idea that if NPA accounts can be transferred from bank's balance sheet to a dedicated NPA bank, then so it's an idea, it's a concept that has been floated. Yes, Akshay, good. Exactly. Believe me, that is why this topic is here. And that is why whenever I say that it is going to create a more opportunity. That is exactly what is needed from us as chartered accountants. This knowledge of technology and the impact of it. Once you do that, the life will change. Yeah, NPA recovered, you can say bad debts recovered. Great. So process flow of credit cards. So again, if you look to the left side, customer brand. So let us see. If you just see it, so what a very good part, what has been done is the labels have been standardized so that your remembrance become easy. Just see, we read about CASA and now you're reading about credit card. So the first row is absolutely same. Applies for credit card. There he was applying for a current account, saving account. Here you are going to apply for a credit card. So the core difference. Okay, let me ask you to apply for a CASA account or say saving bank account and to apply for a credit card. What you have to submit documents that include KYC. What additional documentation difference could be there while you are applying for a credit card or applying for a saving account? Give a thought to that. What documentation difference you may find? Let us learn. Let us add more quality to the discussion. So this you are going to do. So you will apply, then you are going to submit some documents, KYC documents, your Aadhaar, PAN card, address proof, voter ID, driving license, passport copy, or defined list of documents for as a photo ID proof, as address proof, whatever the banker requires. You give it. You need to tell me the core difference of document that may be there, the supporting document, when you are opening a saving bank account and when you are opening a or you are requesting a credit card. Just try to learn that. Then relationship manager, same KYC document, appraisal, credit risk. Yes, in fact, now banks have, I think what I understand, what I know, banks have reasonably strict norm for issuance of credit cards. Okay, because credit card is like a part-time funding bank is going to do. So you have credit card. So basic limit of credit card is say 25,000. So what does it mean? That you pay through credit card today, and there's a concept of billing cycle. So every bank has a billing cycle that is generally 1 month. Okay. So suppose the billing cycle for your credit card, whichever bank credit card you have, is say first of the next month. So whatever payment by the credit card you are going to do from 1st and 30th of April, it will be part of your billing statement that is generated on May. Now, when a billing statement is generated, it is not payable next day. It is generally payable 15 days after. So your expenditure from 1st April to 30 April on a credit card, you pay. It doesn't affect cash flow now. When your cash flow will be affected? When the banker generates the credit card statement. When the banker is generating credit card on 1st May. The amount is payable by 15th day, that is 15th of May. So from 1st April to 15th of May, if you look at like that, so that credit card gives you a credit facility of 45 days. That is the core difference between credit card and debit card. Debit card, when you pay through a debit card, it immediately withdraws money from your linked bank account. In credit card, the immediate withdrawal is not there. You have to pay when the credit card bank generates the bank statement, and you have to pay by the due date. So generally, they say that it gives you 45 days credit. That's a general parameter. It can change based on the nature of the bank, the nature of credit. There are categories of credit card. We'll try to see if we can talk. Yes, in this point, we can talk about the categories also. Okay. So risk team assesses the customer background, credibility, and allots the limit. Now there the issue come, allots the limit. So I said that generally say credit cards have limit of say 25,000. Then based on your paying capacity, based on the nature of transaction you do, banker sometimes tells, okay, we can increase your limit till 50,000. You start doing credit to 50,000, make the payment on due dates, they increase it to 1 lakh. So based on your profile, they increase your limits. Okay. Then they can give you specified credit card. If you see credit cards, so they There are words written in the credit at the right bottom of the credit card: platinum, diamond, gold. So these parameters to classify you as a category of customer for credit card. Then decision made by the credit risk team. So they make a decision. Yes, the rejection in credit card is going to be much higher. Okay. So I've asked you a question. So once you give the answer to the question, we'll see when your rejection may be there. Say, for example, your CIBIL score may be low. You have outstanding loan that you have probably not paid, like that. So there are parameters to that. Willful defaulter list. Any other bank's credit card is outstanding that you have not paid. So all this is counted. Then credit card dispersal. Now here credit card dispersal is very, very critical. See, a lot of control issues are there. So credit card is like the physical card. So it's a physical card. Then you have a PIN number to a credit card. So generally what bankers do, they don't dispatch both. It's a physical card. So it has to be sent to you by post. That the PIN number that has also to be sent to you. So bankers have their own methodologies of ensuring that both documents are not sent together. So what the banker may do, send the credit card today and dispatch the PIN number 15 days after. Why this is done? So that the delivery partner, a courier company or whatever it is, the employee of the delivery partner is not able to misuse the two transactions being together. Believe me, a lot of credit card frauds have occurred because what had happened initially, the credit card and the PIN number were in the same envelope. And over a period of time, the courier agents, those who wanted to do fraud, they realized that by having both these documents, the credit card and the PIN number, they can do fraud. So now that there is a 15 days basic difference created in physically sending the credit card and the PIN number. That is one way. Other banks, what they do, they send like the bank credit card that I carry. What my bank had done, they had sent the credit card physically to me and asked me to collect the PIN number from the bank. So it is a more stricter control, because when you go to the bank, he, she, or the employee or the staff of the bank validates you, ask you few questions, ask to show you Aadhaar card, then they give you a PIN number. So it adds a lot of security to the process. So that is how disbursal may be done. Okay. So that is process flow. We have some questions. Yes. So I think this is going to be a prize winning question. Let us see who gets the prize. Okay. So there is a concept of FI in credit card issuance field investigation. So the banker may send person to verify. Very good. So that is one Ayush. Okay, Prabhas. Yeah. So let us see. So Mansha is one who gets the e-chocolate. Let us see who talked about income statement. Here, two people have talked about income statement, so they get the e-chocolate. Then, okay, good. So two e-chocolates to be sent. One is to Hiral, another is to Mansha. Income statement. Very, very important. Because see, the person is going to assess your, the banker is going to give you a credit 45 days. So they need to see what is your income parameter. That is very important. Very good. Now you get the point. That is why credit card issuance, the rejections are much higher. Current account, saving account, very rare rejection. Rejection of a current account, saving account will be exception. Exception means the person is a known absconder or the person is on a willful default. That is. But here credit card, debit card, even if everything is normal, the bank may reject based on your income statement. So you are not eligible to get the credit card. That is how they do. Very good. Then credit card nomination, okay, that is agreed. But income was the core because that determines the eligibility of you to get that credit card. Fantastic. Great. So I feel that I'm with a group of people who know a lot of things. What we are basically doing is restructuring it and trying to remember it in a manner we can put it in words when the question is asked in examination. So that makes the job easier. And now, because probably we'll have the last class for this chapter 5 some day back, 2-3 days after, that will be the last class for this subject also. And our target score is clear 80%. So 80% से कम नंबर लाना नहीं है, ऐसा ऑप्शन अपन ने दिया नहीं है. Okay. Yes. Okay. Pradeep, check credit score. Great. Now, so we have talked about the process flow. So what we'll do is, we'll do for each of this process flow, we'll do through the flow chart. And now let us go to the risk table. Rest is here. The only thing that is the credit card issuing company's name is there. So Visa, Master, Amex and RuPay. Now RuPay is also evolving. RuPay has become very big itself. It's an Indian credit card company. This is important. Process flow of clearing settlement. This also will do through the diagram itself. Okay? The diagram is there. Yeah. Now, how the credit card. So you have got the credit card. You have got the PIN number. You have changed the PIN number when you use it for the first time. We have talked about it. The PIN number is very secured, issued in a secured manner. You have changed that. Now you are using it. So when you use, how does it is processed? So let us do the transaction processing of a credit card used by a customer. Okay. So what is happening? Here is the customer. So we'll start from the customer. The customer is presenting card on the POS. So this is how POS, point of sale terminal. Probably someone did ask. So this is exactly what POS is, point of sale terminal. It is visible in the module itself. Now you swipe the card here. So as soon as you swipe, okay, the detail goes to the merchant bank. Merchant bank is the bankers. So suppose I have a public sector bank credit card. So name of the bank, it goes there. Then this bank system is linked to the credit card network of the credit card issuing bank. Who are the credit card issuing bank? Those 4 credit card companies. So they tally. Now what they are basically tallying, that this credit card is swiped by say Mr. A. You swipe, then you have to put a PIN number. So first that validation is done. Then suppose you are doing a transaction of say 30,000 rupees and your credit card is already has a limit of 25,000. So will it process? No. This validation is done here. So there is a rejection generated, transaction declined. There can be other reasons also. Your PIN number does not match. You have put the PIN number incorrect. Then the transaction is declined because it is not validated here. That is why. So this first part is basically validation, that whether the credit card is used, the user is a valid person and the PIN number is correct or not, and the amount that is being paid is valid within the limits prescribed or within the balance that a person can consume now. Once this is done, so you have paid. Now the settlement process. The second part is the settlement process. So the merchant bank generates a statement. The statement is sent to the customer and customer makes a payment. Settlement is done. So here the settlement is done, clearing and settlement. These are the 2 parameters to credit card business. Now the risks and controls. See, so a lot of effort has been done to create tables with the same core parameters. So this first row was exactly same in CASA. The only difference that has been created is the key control definitions. So there was a credit committee. Here the credit committee's relevance is much more. So just for the sake of it, credit committee for allowing a current account, saving account to be created, and credit committee for allowing a credit card to be issued. Whose job will be more intense? You answer this question. Okay, let you answer the question. Same risk, the same basic parameter of control. So credit committee, which is assessing the credit worthiness of a person who is opening a current account or a saving account. That is one credit committee. Second credit committee is one which is assessing the capability of a person whether to issue a credit card to a person or not. So within these 2 credit committee, CASA credit committee and credit card credit committee, whose job is more intense? You have to say. So whatever you say, you can say CASA credit committee intense, credit card credit committee intense. Let us see. So answer this question. So then credit committee checks the ratios, the net worth, risk factors. its corresponding mitigating factors to create a credit line. So this customer is eligible to this much credit on this credit card. That's then. So for that is the assessment part. Next, this is a disaster. Huge frauds across the world have happened on this line. We don't have time to share, but that was, I'll just tell you the brief. What exactly is this and what was the fraud? We are not going to go in the technology of the fraud, but I'm just trying to tell you the level of fraud people can create. Let us read. So what had happened? This bank had issued credit cards to its customer with a cap. Okay. So what hackers did, they duplicated the credit cards. How credit card is duplicated, that is a different topic. They duplicated many credit cards of the banker's customer. The hackers went into the credit line setup of the bank. They modified. So suppose the original credit line setup, as in the bank system, is say 50,000 rupees. The hacker have already duplicated, created a clone of the credit card, cloning of the credit card. Search on Google, you'll get a lot of answers. Credit card cloning. So they created clone of the credit card and then they hacked into the bank system. If the original limit is 50,000, they increased it to 5 lakh. So original limit that was set by the credit committee is 50,000. The hackers increased it to 5 lakh and this cloned credit card were then given to people. Expend, misuse. Whatever you do, withdraw money from say ATM or buy any product, share 50% with us, run away. It was a worldwide gang of hackers who did it. I don't know the exact value, just I'm trying to guess it. This fraud was done by changing the credit line in the bank system. To what I know, the fraud went, in rupee terms, it was something around 500 crores. The one line that was this. So that is what hackers can do. So this is a phenomenal topic to talk about. So you need to have a very strong system. So all these credit card issuing companies, Visa, Master, Amex, American Express and RuPay, whatever systems they create, that they have to be very rigid, very strict and a step ahead of hackers. That is the point. Then masters defined for customer are not in accordance with pre-disbursement. Now here it will become important. Someone did talk about pre-disbursement certificate. So the relevance in CASA is there, but here it is much more. Here our pre-disbursement is like the assessment of the credit limit. Very important. We have talked about this. Credit line setup can be breached. You cannot do a transaction beyond your credit setup in the system. Inaccurate interest, we have talked about this. Inaccurate reconciliations, that is. So, because we are going to the next process, let us see your answers. Yes, so network is merchant bank. Yeah, so the SAP has tried to give the nature of this rejections, transaction rejection. Yes, good. Very good, SAP. Yeah, debit card, yes, because see what has happened, this digital transactions, digital currencies, debit card, credit card, their usage has increased very huge. So what banks have done, they've started creating separate departments. So virtually all banks which are issuing debit cards to its customers will have a dedicated department that keeps a track of it. Yes. Credit card committee will be more intense. So that is easy. Pooja, Himanshu, Akash, Neil. So you all know it. Great. Then Kaveri. So we have two Pooja PS and Pooja Chajed. So both have answered correctly. Mansha, then Ayush. Oh, Shrinjini, it is credit card credit committee. Very intense. Okay. So that is how you look at it. So that is credit card issue. So it has to be a good learning discussion. Now, someone said, sir, how to revise in examination? Please understand, the more you enjoy, the more you get that interest in the subject, the easier it is going to become for you to remember in exam. The whole idea about my sharing examples is only that, to make that remembrance effort easy. See, whatever we may be talking about, in my heart, in my mind, I ensure that everything, see, whatever is written is not, to me, the subject is not theory. It is 110% practical. Like every line that we have read, I have shared some example live with you. So, and see, time is a restriction that we have to cater to. But beyond that, everything is practical. Not a single word is theory here. No, Ayush's question is there a drawback with non-personalized or personalized debit card? I think I need to define, because many of you are listening to this. Personalized debit card is the one which is issued by the bank to me, so it will carry my name. Non-personalized debit cards are those which don't carry my name. Sharing Ayush to you and to all of you, I have two debit cards linked to my two different bank accounts. One is personalized, another is non-personalized. I have not faced any difference per se in usage. So I don't see any difference. The only thing is that the non-personalized doesn't have my name. That is the only point. The rest, I have not come across any issue. There has to be some technicalities to that, but on a usage part, no difference. Okay. So I'm refreshing the chat. See, yeah. So I was waiting for, we were on 99. So I wanted the score to become 100. So we have crossed 100. So Milton has said it correctly, sir. When we listen from faculty, we get an understanding. But when we revise, sometimes we miss. See, the best idea is to keep a note and to create that awareness within our understanding. Okay. So let us go ahead. The next part. Business process flow for mortgages. Okay. So probably we'll do this one, and then because we want to do our MCQ based case study. So after this, we'll go to that. We have one more day to take care of other aspects. Mortgage loan is a secured loan. So first, remember secured loan. These are questions that are going to be asked in exam. On borrower's property by marking a lien on property as collateral for the loan. So mortgages are recorded because you're doing it on a property. So every state has a regulatory law that they call a Stamp Act. So when bankers have to record a mortgage, so they have to, some stamp duty has to be paid, and those mortgages have to be written. There's a document, there's a booklet in which it is physically written. If the borrower stops paying, then the lender has the first charge on the property. So please understand, these mortgages are subject to stamp duty of the state where the property is there. So bankers register these mortgages, and there is a dedicated register in which these mortgages are recorded. Mortgages are used by individuals, business to make large real estate purchases without paying the entire value. Okay, that is the nature of transaction. What are the types of mortgages, mortgage loan we can have? Home loan, that we all understand. There is a traditional mortgage. So I'll just read. Home loan, you understand. Okay. Then there is a concept of fixed and variable rate. So the rate of interest for the tenor of loan, generally home loans are based on the amount of loan, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Some bank may give for 25 years based on the age of the borrower. So fixed or variable rate. Top up loans, you already have a loan, you take another on top of that. Loan under construction of property. Loan for under construction property. So these are the types of loans you may give. Again, what we'll do, we'll go to the flowchart to understand the process of. So again, customer. So they've tried to, a lot of effort has been done to create this flowchart so that the left side, the rows are same. I'm not sure whether readability will be there, but you can have the module open with you. So they approach the bank, complete the application form. Okay. Give the details, the purpose, the property details, the what is the amount of loan you want, your income details. So all those documents are given. Then the branch or relationship manager processes. Relationship manager reviews the document, whether all the documents are received. If not received, ask the customer to give again. If they have been received, yes, received, then go to the underwriting department. So I think on the first day someone did ask underwriting department. So in banks parlance, underwriting department is which is going to make an assessment of the credit worthiness of the to be borrower. So credit team determines financial eligibility. So bankers have norm, say for salaried employee, how much home loan can be given to salaried employee. So they just sharing like that. So suppose the employee salary is say 5 lakh rupees per annum. So they have a multiplier of 5. So 5 lakh rupees per annum salary, you can give a home loan up to 25 lakh. So these methodologies bankers have created, which they adhere to. So they make an assessment. So once the documents are there, then they make an assessment. Then once assessment is done, they go for, yes, this is important, legal and search. There's a concept of search report. Search report means whatever property against which the bank is trying to give loan or planning to give loan, to see whether the title document of the property are valid, to check whether there is any other loan on the property. So all these validations are done. That is done through legal search. Then valuation. Suppose the borrower, to be borrower says that my property is 10 lakh rupees. So there are chartered valuers, like you are chartered accountants. So there are chartered valuers, chartered engineers who give valuation of the property. So they have got their own methodology. So suppose you say that my property is 10 lakh and I want a loan of 5 lakh rupees. So valuer is going to make an assessment. What is the actual value of the property? So that assessment is done by valuers. So that valuation is done. So valuation report is generated. Legal formalities are there. They submit their report to underwriting department to tell that everything is okay. So this aspect, legal and valuation, is taken care by, they report to whom? The underwriting department. Once they get the data to underwriting department, then you go to lender ops. So once, let us just have a fast recap. Documentation, validation of documentation. If documentation is not there, go back to the customer, get all documentation. When that is there, the underwriting department makes a credit assessment. Once that is done, you go for legal and valuation. When they are approved, then underwriting department goes to the next, that gives the offer letter or loan agreement is created for the borrower. Signed loan agreement is there, that is done. The cashier order or bank order, as the case may be, is created and amount is disbursed to the customer. This takes us back up. So cashier order is provided to the customer, mandatory details, and charge is registered to the property. It's like same moment of time, you register the charge or register charge first and get the amount, and the process ends. That is how this whole loan mortgage process is going to work like. Then risk and control, very, very important. The aspects of risk and control in loan mortgage process. Capturing of incorrect customer data, that is going to be a disaster. See, if originally you capture the data incorrectly, suppose the borrower, to be borrower, has submitted my income is 5 lakh rupees and you capture, say, add a zero at the end, 50 lakh, disaster. Okay. So whatever assessment is done, you must always have a secondary review by independent person who is going to re-verify the documentation submitted. Then, so these are big disasters. Okay, here. Okay. So this is generally done. First is taken care of. Always have a like maker checker. So first assessment, second assessment. Then incorrect loan disbursed. It's a disaster. So means incorrect loan means the eligibility is 4 lakh and you give 5 lakh. Must never happen. There is a second, again you have a secondary review performed by an independent team member who will verify the loan amount to be disbursed with the core banking application to the site. So someone has to check. These are the checks exactly what concurrent auditors are doing when they go for the bank audit. The sanction terms, the amount sanctioned, all that. Then interest amount is incorrectly calculated and charged. Now see, let us talk more on this aspect because lot of updates are there. First is very clear. Interest is auto calculated. So as a control aspect, if interest amount is being incorrectly calculated, first thing to look after is that whether the rate of interest has been correctly fed first. Second, if the rate of interest is correctly fed, whether the system is calculating product correctly. I have told you, we all understand that core banking systems are softwares. They are working very well, but then the chance of error is always there. So before a conclusion is drawn, we must have a sample check. Beyond that, what system control has to be there? That whatever calculations are done in system has to be based on the loan amount, the rate of interest, and the tenor of loan. But again, I told you that even this core banking system, the basic definitions are created by humans. Tour is human. So that validation, the next validation process has to be done by auditors, bankers themselves. What you are looking at is the core process, the risk in the process, what control is in the core banking system. So right side of the table is defining the control that can be put in core banking system. When we read the first line of this, a separate team is created for assessment because that assessment cannot be done by core banking system. So you have a second level check on that. Then unauthorized changes made to loan master data or customer data. Huge disaster. It has to do a lot with the access rights provided to the officers or to the staff in the bank or misuse of access rights. Now, see this, when you go to bank now, all public sector banks have this biometric authentication of the staff. So by sharing password, it's not a possibility that I can log in through your system because biometric authentication is there. The trouble will be that my rights are not properly configured. Then this unauthorized changes are going to occur because my rights are not properly configured. I will do unauthorized changes in system. Now, because we are going to the next part, probably now we'll not go to this next part. We first go to our case study because that was a detailed case study. 11 questions are there. So let me refresh the queries. I think we have one or two. Let me check. Yeah. So Mansha has a question that is part of the syllabus. We are going to talk about this. Last discussion on chapter 5, but because the question is there, please note this section. 43 capital A of Information Technology Act 2000 as amended by in 2008. 43 capital A. Remember the section. Answer to Mansha's question. It is part of our discussion. We'll have it on last day. Her question is that lot of data is submitted to the bank. So what is the control on that? We'll talk about it. 43A is a section. Okay. So we are going to the case, the MCQ. Let me just bring that. I'll just take a second. So this was the case-based MCQ I shared with you. I'm allowing you to read. Let us read. So I understand you have all gone through it. Cash credit loan of 50 crores. Question is absolutely real time. Today is 6th. RBI did out on 4th. The last line. Okay. So let us go to the MCQ. The case was already given to you. Let us go to the MCQ. So I've tried to make presentation better. So you have the case and the MCQ facing it. Now you answer question 1. So I want you to answer question 1 A, B, C, D. Oh. So question you have to answer. This I want real time. Waiting for your answers on question 1. Yeah. B, term loan. Okay, good. So now question 2. So just when you answer question 1, this was easy. Okay, nothing to discuss. So I've changed the presentation format for the slide. So at least you have the case and the question together. Good. So we already have answer C. Great. Good. So Akash, Neil, Rupesh, Himanshu, and I understand most of you will be understanding correctly. So let us go to question 3. Yeah, 2 is C. Pradeep, Mansha, then Hiral, it is C. Okay, the previous question. Now we are on question 3. Yes, so we have Pooja and Mansha. I got these 2 updates. No, yeah, correct. D. There are 5, but 2 are correct. Good, good. Let us go to the next one. This I want all to answer correctly. We have one answer that is incorrect, so I'm not reading it. Yes. Now we have correct answers, Saipa and Puja. Great. So total facility, the word is clear. Total, it includes fund and non-fund based. So cash credit 50, term loan 25, letter of credit 25. So total is 100. Total. Okay. Fund and non-fund. That was the reason why the question was there. Okay. Next. Many people have added. So 100 crore was the right answer to question 4. Now question 5. So 5. Yeah. So we have Akash Neil, Mansha, Hiral. They've answered correctly. B. Database server. See, databases where all information is there. Application seeks information and works through that. Okay. Next. So question 5th was correctly answered by 5th. The Harshita, then Shinjani, Miss Menon Rafiq Bhai, and now we have, yeah. So Monica and Harshita, they've answered correctly question 6. The updates I have. B, 2-factor. Great. Let us just refresh if see more people are there. Yeah. So Milton says, sir, B. So he has put B 4 times. It is B. Thank you. 5 times. Then Mansha is correct. Then Saipa is also correct. Yeah. Himanshu is also correct. 2-factor. Great. So let us go to the next one. Good question. Great. So we have Shinjini and Ayush, and Himanshu is also correct, and Akash Neil is also correct, and Menon Rafiq Bhai is also correct. D, update. Good. And this question is basically, you see the implication. What will happen if the bank does not revise the rate? Then you'll get a right answer to this question. So, Kaveri, yes, I think I need to give e-chocolate for this. So this will go to Kaveri. Revenue audit. I did give you a hint that discussion was this only. Okay. So let us see how many of you have answered this correctly. Okay. Manisha, please read maintenance definition. Maintenance is, there is a problem, you upgrade. Maintenance, for regulation maintenance, it is update. Okay. Here maintenance is problem resolution. So Kaveri gets the chocolate, Harshita gets, and Saipa. Great. C. Next. Take your time, no hurry. You can do this in an open book format also. Let me refresh again. Great. I think all have answered correctly. A9, A, operational risk. This part of the definition, if you read from the module. So 9 is A. So the Puja is correct, and then we have Raghavan is also correct. Okay. 10th. Yes, Puja, thank you. Operational, yes, good. Hiral is also correct. 9th, Hiral is also correct. A. And Mansha is also correct. Good. Now 10th. I want correct answer from all. We discussed this in reasonably good detail. Part of the module also. This just by the time you answer, this way of presenting MCQ, the case and this, is it good? Does it help? Say yes, no, the presentation part. Great. So, yes, many of you have said correctly. I'll have to read all names. So, Himanshu is correct. Pooja is correct, Raghavan is correct, Akash Neil is correct, Hiral is correct, Mansha is correct. Yeah, Pooja, customer master. So Pooja has given the next level within master, customer master. Great. Then Monica is correct, and Menon Rafiq Bhai, she is also correct. Good. Okay. So question answer helps us hit 200 our chat score. The last question for the MCQ. Let me refresh. Good. Raghavan, C. Fixed floating both. In the example also, the question is general and the same situation exists in the example also. Okay, you just check because I think it's available. So many, all of others have got. Just take help from your friend. If you have further query, please mail to Institute EIS ID. Yeah. So 11C. So that is the questions we had. Just what I'll bring because we'll have a fast recap. Okay. So just give me a second. Yeah. So here we talked about the business process flow. Now, treasury per se, we are not starting now. We'll take it on the last day. Okay, I've just removed that. So I'll answer that day after tomorrow. Okay. Now, so we'll continue from this bank itself. Now, what we have talked about today, see, our core discussion of today was the basic banking operations, how they are being done, what are the control aspects in those banking operations. So these aspects we talked about. Today we'll continue with this treasury process. Now, I want your update on this treasury process. So you answered one question, this CRR, SLR. So just giving you option, treasury process will be linked to which one of these two words? Treasury process per se will be linked to which one? CRR or SLR? That will create a discussion that we are going to start when we meet for the last day of this chapter and last day of this batch. Keep all your questions ready. So treasury process is linked to SLR or CRR. Just trying to gauge your understanding of the treasury process. Okay. Just taking one more update. Yeah, SLR. Good, Hiral. So I only wanted that answer, statutory liquidity ratio. The banks have to invest in GSEC, government securities and defined securities. So this is here GSEC. Okay. So we'll be talking about this when we meet next. So let us call it a day. We are closing the batch. Thank you. Good night. Yes.